Once, a prison guard accidentally overheard very disturbing rumors. Someone was planning a prison break. The guard watched all the footage from the surveillance cameras and discovered that 2 women had been behaving suspiciously. One of them was a former bodybuilder, muscular, with short hair and covered in tattoos. The other was quiet and reserved. She preferred to spend time on her own and sometimes cried in her cell. After watching the video several times, the guard figured out which woman was planning to escape. Can you do the same? It's the second prisoner. There's a file in her bun. She can use it to get through the metal bars. Mark comes up to the table. There are 3 apples, but only one of them is safe to eat. The other 2 are poisonous. Unfortunately, Mark can't skip breakfast. So, which apple should he eat? Look, this apple has a caterpillar in it. It means there's no poison in the fruit and it's safe to eat. These 3 women, Jessica, Mary, and Olivia, went shopping. 2 of them are pregnant and one is just trying to steal a watermelon. Can you tell which one is hiding a watermelon? It's Olivia. She's wearing heels. It's not the kind of shoes a pregnant woman would choose to wear. Nathan, a successful entrepreneur with a multi-million-dollar business, and his friend Jackson, a famous private detective, returned from a long-term trip abroad. They decided to stop by at Nathan's villa on the way to the city. When the men entered the house, though, they saw that everything more or less valuable had been taken away. The entire villa was a mess. "I've only been away for a month. What happened here?" exclaimed Nathan. Jackson took an apple from the dining room table and started to munch on it thoroughly. "The lock isn't broken. It means the person who took your stuff had the key." After a while, the detective asked Nathan to invite 3 people. Mia, Nathan's niece, told Jackson she hadn't visited her uncle's home. She had been having serious problems with her car for already 2 months. And the villa was too far away from the city to get there by public transport. Sarah, the maid, claimed that she had stopped by several weeks ago to bring some food and tidy up, but since then she hadn't been to the villa. Adam, the gardener, told the detective he had been on vacation and had just returned. He even offered to show his plane tickets to Jackson. The detective figured out immediately who was behind the mess. You have 8 seconds to figure it out. It was the maid. She said she brought food several weeks ago, but the apple Jackson grabbed from the table was perfectly fresh. Once, Ms. White heard someone crying. It was her little student, Abigail. The girl told the teacher her cookies had been disappearing from her locker. Someone had been taking them for already several weeks, but Abigail didn't know who. Ms. White decided to help the girl. They equipped the locker with a simple alarm that had to go off if someone who wasn't Abigail opened the door. They hid behind the corner and began waiting. In 10 minutes, they heard the alarm. When they reached the locker, it was already empty, and there was no one nearby. But Ms. White noticed somebody disappear behind the art room door. She rushed inside, but everything looked normal. And still, the teacher needed no more than a minute to understand who had been eating Abigail's cookies. Look at the picture of the art room carefully. Can you find out the answer within 8 seconds? It's the girl on the left. Her painting's black and white, but there are only various shades of blue on her palette. And maybe the cookie crumbs are a giveaway too. I don't know. One perfume company hires new staff. They must swear an oath of loyalty to the company if they want to get a job. 10 people are saying the words of the corporate oath simultaneously, but some of them are cheating. Help the directors figure out who these people are. This guy keeps his fingers crossed, and the man on the left is standing with his legs crossed. They won't be loyal to the company, so the director doesn't hire them. Two influential media moguls are having lunch at an expensive restaurant. They're discussing the merger of their companies. The transaction amount is several $billions. They're whispering since the terms of this deal are top secret, and they suspect that someone can hear them. And they're right. Some curious people are eavesdropping on the conversation between the two businessmen. Try to find them. The girl at the next table is reading a newspaper that is turned upside down. She's obviously trying to overhear what the billionaires are talking about. This guy over there is listening to music, but the headphone wire is not connected to anything. Another girl is sitting at the table in the corner with a cocktail, but instead of an umbrella, there's an antenna in her glass. She's recording the conversation. "Where are my employees?" a boss shouts. He's furious because 3 people haven't come to the office. He calls each of them to find out the reason. All 3 tell him they got ill. The boss doesn't believe them, so they have to arrive at the office. Mary is wearing a warm jacket, hat, and scarf. She sneezes, coughs, and looks sick. Lori is walking on crutches. Her leg is in a cast. Sometime later, Michael appears. He's got a hand injury, and now he can't type. The boss is sure that one of them is faking. Who is it? Mike's left arm is broken, but his phone is in his left pocket. He must have used his broken arm to put it there, which means he's pretending. Apparently, he just didn't want to come to work. Ice will melt if you heat it, but if you heat me, I'll become solid. What am I? I'm an egg. You buy this thing to eat, but you never eat it. What is it? It's a plate. Mia was going back home one evening. It was 11 p.m., and she had to cross a small dark park in front of her house. Suddenly, she heard footsteps behind. Someone grabbed her bag and ran away. The girl called the police, and they questioned 4 suspects. Jack said, "I was choosing an outfit for a party." Camilla was getting ready for her final exam at home. Andrew told the police he had been watching birds in the park. Nora was at her yoga class. After the interview, the police understood who was behind the robbery. Can you? It was Andrew. At 11 p.m., it's too dark to see birds. James left a folder with important documents on the table in his home office and went to a business meeting. When he returned, he found out that the documents had disappeared. James had 3 suspects. His brother said, "I've been swimming in the pool since you left. I haven't seen or heard anything." The cook replied, "Tomorrow we're having a party. I've been preparing the food." The security guard told James, "I've been outside all this time, checking the garden for mice." Who knows where the documents are? It's the security guard. His job description doesn't include pest control. An accident happened at a busy crossroads in a small town. A driver who caused the crash left in a hurry. Luckily, several witnesses managed to describe the car. A police officer headed to the suspect's house. There, he saw a car that looked exactly like the one from the description, but its owner claimed that he had spent all day at home. The police officer knew the suspect was lying in no time. How? He touched the car hood. It was still hot from the engine that had worked not so long ago. You're walking along a railroad track. Suddenly, you see a speedy train approaching you. Instead of getting off the track immediately, you run toward the train. Why do you risk your life this way? When you notice the train, you're on a bridge. You can't leave the track right away and have to run to the closest place where you can do it.
Jordan was very late for a job interview. When he drove up to the office building, he found out there was no free parking spaces. He decided to leave his car a bit further from the entrance. Oh no! Even though there were several other vehicles in that place, parking was prohibited there. Luckily, Jordan came up with an idea and didn't get fined. What did he do? He took a parking ticket from another car and put it on his windshield. It looked as if he'd already been fined. Julia took part in a cooking competition. She decided to prepare her favorite muffins. She did her best and the muffins looked great. But when the jury members tried them, they started to pull faces and splutter. It turned out someone had replaced the sugar Julia was going to use with salt. The girl understood she had lost her chance to become the winner, but at least she could figure out who had done it to her. She had 3 other competitors. Wayne told her he hadn't even been there. He forgot to buy several ingredients and did some last-minute shopping. Amber said that she had been preparing the icing for her cake, and Diana told Julia that she'd been very busy with her recipe. It was complicated, and she had to follow it precisely. Very soon, Julia knew who had spoiled her muffins. And have you figured it out? It was Amber. She said she'd been preparing the icing, but her cake was only sprinkled with some powdered sugar. That day, famous chef Christina was going to have some very important guests in her restaurant. She was anxious because her future depended on how they would appreciate her food. Everything had to be perfect. There was only 1 hour left before the guests were supposed to arrive, and that's when Christina discovered someone had left ugly red handprints on her sparkling white jacket. She examined the stains. It was ketchup. Christina knew that some of the cooks didn't like her. She decided to find out who was behind the accident. Look at the cooks and try to help the chef figure out who's guilty. There's a pair of gloves stained with something red in the trash can. The only person who isn't wearing any gloves is the cook on the left. He was the one to spoil Christina's uniform. Nancy was angry with her boyfriend Paul and sent him an email. In it, she told the guy she was going to break up with him. But just an hour after sending the message, the girl found out Paul had done nothing wrong. Now, she needed to delete the email from his computer. The girl knew Paul was at work, so she sneaked into his house. But the computer was protected by a password. Nancy thought the word she needed could be her name. Paul loved her very much after all, but the girl was wrong. And then an idea came to her mind. She typed in a word and this time it was correct. Look at what Nancy saw on the screen and try to figure out the password. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. B, R, Y, M, P, N, A, C, B. The password was 67683. These numbers correspond with the letters of Nancy's name. Linda was in a cafe with her boyfriend, and their date wasn't going very well. At some moment, they both got angry and started to argue. Suddenly, their waiter came up to the table and handed something to Linda. It was a note with a strangely written word. Little t, big R, little O, big U, little b, little L, little e, question mark. Linda was confused. What could it mean? Can you figure it out? The waiter got worried and asked Linda, "Are you in trouble?" Dennis called the police and told them a large sum of money had disappeared from his dorm room. He thought it was one of his neighbors who had done this. The police came and questioned the guy's neighbor. Deborah, a designer, told the officers, "I had to finish an important project. That's why I pulled an all-nighter. When I sent the final version to the client in the morning, I went to bed and only woke up when you came." Aaron, a waiter, said, "I've had a very long shift today because one of my colleagues got ill. I haven't seen Dennis since yesterday." And Nathan, a vet, said, "I've just come back home. One of my patients called and told me he felt unwell. I had to hurry to the hospital where he was and stay with him." The police officers immediately understood who was lying. And you? It was Nathan who had taken the money. He lied about a patient calling him. He's a vet. Look at these three young ladies. Can you figure out who the cat belongs to? Its owner is the blonde girl. The cat has torn her t-shirt. What does this rebus puzzle mean? MIL1LION. That's 1 in a million. Susan worked as a nurse in a hospital. One day, she came to make injections to 3 patients. After this injection, it was prohibited to get up, and Susan specifically warned the patients to stay in bed. But when the woman came back, she realized one of them had gotten up while she had been away. Who was it, and how did she understand it? It's the guy on the left. His phone is now plugged in, but the outlet is quite far from his bed. John was hungry. He took something, threw away the outside, and cooked the inside. Then he ate the outside and threw away the inside. What snack did he have? An ear of corn. Jason smuggled antiques into the country. This time, it was a beautiful ancient vase. In no time, he found a person who was ready to buy it. As agreed, Jason came to the park. He had a bag with the vase inside. The guy left it on the bench and hid behind the trees. In less than a minute, a bulky man came up to the bench, grabbed the bag, and went away. When Jason approached the bench again, he saw a note. In it, there was a code. Roads and roads. What is the hidden word? Jason needed just a few seconds to realize the word in the note was crossroads. But which crossroad did his client mean? The guy looked around and saw a modern hotel. Its name was Crossroads. Jason headed for the hotel. He told his name to the receptionist and received yet another note. There was just 3 letters, F, B, D. After some thinking, the guy understood what the room number was. Do you know it too? It's room 624. F is the 6th letter of the alphabet, B is the 2nd, and D is the 4th. Jason got to the 6th floor and found the room he needed. The door was indeed open. On the table, there was one more note, hopefully the last one. It had 3 images, a lamp, a bottle of water, and a key. Next to the lamp, there was a downward pointing arrow. Near the bottle, there was an arrow pointing to the left. And to the key, there was an upward pointing arrow. Where is the money? It's under the cushion on the sofa. This cushion is on the right side of the bottle, lower than the lamp, and higher than the key, which is lying on the floor. Emily came to the police station to report her diamond ring stolen. Only me, my husband, and his best friend Larry knew where I kept the ring. My husband has been away on business for 3 weeks. When he left, the ring was still in my jewelry box. It means Larry must have taken it. Detective Richardson visited the man. I know nothing about the ring, and I would never do something like this to my friend. That was when the detective noticed an inconspicuous jewelry box on the shelf over the table. May I have a look? Inside, he saw a diamond ring. This ring was left for me by my great-grandfather. He bought it in Europe decades ago. I even have some papers proving my words." When Detective Richardson looked at the documents, he realized Larry was lying. How did he figure it out? Look at the date. It's February 30th. The documents are fake. How about this rebus puzzle? Let's see how fast you'll crack it. Working time. It means working overtime. Kayla was staying in a hotel in Paris when someone broke into her room and took all her expensive stuff. The police had 3 suspects. Alan said, "I was trying to pour myself some coffee downstairs, but with my arm in a sling, it was so difficult." Mary told the police, "I was at the reception trying to solve some issues with my shower." And Bruce said, "I was sleeping. It was so loud at night I couldn't rest at all." Who broke into Kayla's room? It was Alan. Look at his cast. He's wearing it over his sweater, so it must be fake.
Well, you're a private detective. You work in a city inhabited by people and magical creatures. You're going to have a rough night. The full moon is coming. It's the time when people and monsters go crazy. Like any detective, you write down your guesses in a diary so that you can summarize the results later. It's afternoon now. You're sitting in your office. Lightning strikes in the sky and someone knocks on the door at the same time. A pale woman enters the room and asks for help. You notice a bracelet on her arm. Her zombie brother is accused of stealing some jewelry, but she's sure he is not guilty. She asks you to prove it. You arrive at the store. On a broken display case where the jewelry used to be, you notice fingerprints. There are 3 suspects: a werewolf, an elf, and a zombie. Which of them is the thief? The elf. The zombie has skeleton hands, and the werewolf has hairy paws. Only the elf could leave human-like fingerprints. You drive through the streets and see a group of suspicious people standing by the riverbank. You stop and get out of the car. The people notice you and sprint in the opposite direction. You run after them on the sand along the water, but can't catch up. You look around but don't see anyone. Then you figure out it was your hallucination triggered by long sleepless nights. How did you figure that out? You ran after these people on the sand, but you can only see the footprints of your boots. You're walking back to the car and hear some screams coming from the water. A woman is calling for help. You run into the river and swim toward the drowning woman. But when you approach her, you see 3 people. They're all screaming, but only one of them is a real human and needs help. The rest are mermaids who want to lure you to their kingdom. How can you find out who the real woman is? Dive and check who has a fishtail. You save the woman and go to the car. It starts raining. You don't want to catch a cold, so you decide to change your clothes in your apartment. But suddenly, you hear someone scream for help outside. You run out of the apartment and forget to lock the door. A woman is crying in the street. She's standing near the road. In the distance, you can see a car leaving at high speed. The woman says her new car has just been stolen. You get into your vehicle and start chasing the criminal. The suspect gets out of the car and runs toward an abandoned house. He climbs over the fence and disappears inside. You go there after him. In a small hall, 5 zombies are walking in different directions. But zombies don't drive cars. One of them is the thief pretending to be a zombie. Who is it exactly? Zombies don't sweat, but one of the creatures you see is covered with sweat. That's because it's the criminal who has been running away from you. You walk through the streets. There's a warning on a post about lizard people charging at the inhabitants of the city. You remember investigating this case, but you couldn't find these reptiles. Now you need to go to the park. For several days, a large werewolf has been scaring the residents there. You know that the werewolf has a wife, and she is the only person who can calm the monster down and help him return to his human form. You have found 3 girls. Each of them might be the werewolf's wife you're looking for. You ask his wife to approach him, but none of the girls admits she's the one you need. So you have to make your own choice. Do you see some wool on this girl's clothes? It's the wolf's fur, which means she's the wife. She walks up to the monster, hugs it, and the werewolf turns into a human. You're hungry. You drop by a pizzeria. The owner of the restaurant says that someone has taken all his weekly earnings from the safe. The thief wore gloves and left no fingerprints. The video cameras were turned off. You know this pizzeria has had several similar incidents over the past year. Every time, the insurance company paid the owner the entire amount that had been stolen. You're sure the owner took his own money to use the insurance again. Take a look at the office and prove that the owner is guilty. Look at the air vent. Behind the grated hatch, you can see the bundles of the stolen money you've been looking for. There's a long night ahead, and you're feeling sleepy. You go to a small cafe to get a coffee. You give the money to the saleswoman and take the cup with the drink. You take a sip and realize the woman is in danger right now. How do you know that? "Help me" is written on the cup she's just given you. You decide not to leave the cafe and sit down at the table. You can see a man in a black raincoat and hood sitting at the other end of the room. The girl behind the cash register is looking at him wearily. You look at this visitor for a few seconds and realize he's a vampire. What makes you think that? It's night outside. You can see your reflection in the window. The hooded man is sitting by the window too, but isn't reflected in it. He's a vampire. The coffee has cheered you up a little. You're walking along the street, lost in thought. That's why you don't notice an open maintenance hole in front of you. You fall and find yourself in a dark sewer. Phew! Fortunately, you're not hurt. Shh! You can hear some noise at a distance. You turn on your flashlight and slowly walk forward. Soon, you come across a cage with several people inside. They say a mad scientist caught them and put them in this cage to conduct experiments. You need to free the prisoners. But where can you find the key? Carefully inspect the laboratory. One of the jars with chemicals standing on the shelf has a key inside. You take it out and are about to open the cage, but the scientist returns. He tells you not to do this. The people inside are actually mutant lizards. The scientist admits that he accidentally turned regular crocodiles into humans. The scientist managed to catch these monsters and put them in this cage. He's going to turn them back into reptiles and let them go. The prisoners say they are humans, and the scientist lies. Who do you believe? You decide not to open the cage. Inside, next to the people, you can see pieces of faded skin and scales. Snakes and other reptiles shed during molting. You believe the scientist, and he promises that he will soon fix everything. You're back in the street. It's as dirty and uncomfortable here as in the sewer. Nearby, a bolt of lightning strikes something. You hear someone screaming and run there. A multi-story building is on fire. An old lady is crying. She's left her cat in the apartment. Firefighters may not be able to save it, so you decide to do it yourself. You go up to the top floor using an old fire escape. It collapses behind you. Fortunately, you manage to jump into the window. You're in the old lady's apartment. Several floors lead to different rooms. You don't have time to check each of them. The fire is getting closer. Where is the cat? That door is scratched at the bottom. Those are claw marks. The cat must be there. You open the door and see a big black cougar. The fire is everywhere, and you can't go out through the main entrance. There is a window leading to the backyard and a fire escape. Where will you go? The fire escape collapsed when you were trying to get into the apartment. In the window, you see the tree. It has stopped raining, but it's already morning. Tired, you reach your apartment. You turn the key, open the door, go inside, and realize that someone is here. How have you found out? You were in a hurry and forgot to lock the apartment door while leaving. Someone got in and locked the door from the inside, and you had to use the key to open it. You see a human silhouette standing in the shadows and realize that you know this person. Who is it? It's the woman who asked you to help her brother. She was wearing a red bracelet. The silhouette has the same accessory. I came here to thank you in person. The door was open, but you weren't at home, the woman says. She asked, how many puzzles have you solved tonight? You realize it's time to look at what you've got. 0 to 3 points. It's too early for you to go out to patrol the streets of a dangerous city and help people. You need more experience. Practice and solve more logical puzzles. 4 to 8 points. Not bad. You've solved more than half of your cases. The city is grateful for that. 9 to 11 points. You're one of the best detectives in this city. Every day you help people, but you feel that you can do better. 12 to 14 points. The sirens of police cars, screams, suspicious faces in dark alleys. You can't live without it, and the city can't live without you.